Okay, what's up guys? Spawn Trigger finally back with a more long form video. I haven't been playing a ton, but I have been going back to GBT-04 format, which has been something I've really liked playing. There's like 20 something, 30 something viable decks for the format. So the first deck we're going to go over in GBT-04 format, which is kind of like, I'd say one of the retro formats like GOAT or Edison for Yu-Gi-Oh! We're playing, the format is pretty fun, and it's cheap to get into if you want to play like some retro Vanguard. So the deck we're going into today is Freezeray Messiah. So the main cards you're using is Alter Ego Messiah, which, what this card does is it's GB2. When a card is unlocked, you get to Soul Blast 1 and draw. It's a weaker version of Chaos Breaker, but its Stride Break effect is when you stride on top of it, you can Counterblast 1 to lock one of your cards and lock one of their cards. Pretty simple. This is generally the card you're going to want to ride for most matchups, but our backup grade 3 is going to be Freezeray Dragon. This card, whenever you take a damage, you can lock one of your opponent's rear guards. So this card, if you ride it, it's 10k, which is really important. So you can deny damage, or you can ride it, and your opponent will have to really think about their attack patterns, because if they have a full front row, you can then take the first hit, lock their other rear guard, so you only have to worry about the Vanguard attack. This card is a really good anti-meta choice as your other backup grade 3, because you do have the supplemental 3s. You could play like a Legion, you could play the other card from the trial deck, which isn't the worst card, honestly. It's just this card makes this deck have a really good matchup against Revengers, which is the best deck in the format, I'd say. So this card is really important. Going on to grade 2s. First one is 4 Lead Battler. You can just GB1 lock a card, it gains 4. You can combo this with your starter or Dark Metal Chameleon to either get a search or a counter charge and make it a 13k attacker. So yeah, it's just a free lock at GB1. And you can use 2 of these as well. Next grade 2 is 4 Awaking. So when this card is unlocked, you can choose one of your other rear guards that is rested and stand it, and it gains 2. So this is important because you combo with Lady Battler. You'll lock a card. She'll be 13. You'll attack something. It unlocks, and it'll be 11k. This is the card that lets you get more multi-attacks, number 1. Number 2, if you don't want to counterblast 1 for some other effects, because again, the deck is pretty counterblast heavy if you don't see Dark Metal Chameleon. This is one way to get other multi-attacks. So the last grade 2, personally I like 12 2s because you will play against decks like Sanctuary, what else? Revengers, Aquaforce, decks like that get a good 2 game. And by having more 2s also, it increases the maximum grades in your deck, so you can stride easier. I chose 4 Duskblade, that when this card's boosted and attacks a Vanguard, you can CB1, and then choose one of their opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and lock it. So generally speaking, you'll lock one of their front rows, combined with Messiah's GB on stride skill. You can lock their 2 front rows for just 2 counterblast. Just so it's another piece of locking, just in case, like, situationally it works. You can lock a booster. This card's really important against Revengers, so you can lock 3 of their rear guards, so they don't have 3 to retire for Abyss, which is really important. So yeah, that's the reason I chose to play this card. For grade 1s, we are playing 4 Dark Metal Chameleon. This has Resist, so it's really important because they can't snipe it with their Blaster Dark Revenger or Neo Flame. So the only way generally I think that's popular in the format to get rid of this card is Route Flare Dragon, which nukes the entire column. And then this card's GB1 is when this card's unlocked, you can unflip a damage. It's not like the newer ones where, like the new Sacrifice Messiah for Standard, where you need to have no phase of damage. These can stack as well. So if you lock these for cost and they don't get unlocked during the battle phase, at the end phase they'll unlock, and you'll just get a free counter charge. So for this card, it's really, really good. Next, for grade 1s, we are playing our 4 Destiny Dealer. This just fixes your hand for a grade 3 to get Alter Ego, and it also thins the deck out of a grade 3. It lets you stride with it, so yeah, it's G format. You're going to play 4 of these. We are playing 4 Cosmo Wreath. Just if you have another copy of it engraved, you get to countercharge. Simple as, just a good card. Then I had 1 extra slot, so I played White Dwarf. What this does, when it boosts, you can choose a lock card and unlock it. And then the boosted unit gains 4, so it'll make a power column. And it also combos with stuff like Awakening or Dark Metal, so you can proc their effects. For starter, I just chose the basic Neon Messiah. There's some other things you can play, I guess. You can play the 3 Searcher, but then again, that does cost a counterblast, and it is only 4k. So your turn 1 column is only hitting 11 instead of 12. So that's very important. This is a 5k, and it's a free effect. Granted, you can misgrade at times, but it is important. And there are games where it's like, I'll draw all my alter egos. So you just can keep this on the board to keep unlocking for costs, or you can just put in soul if you need soul to get the draw effect. So there's that. Triggers, we're playing just the generic 8 crit 4 draw. This draw is actually important, the Margle clone. It's just put in soul, give something 3 until end of turn. This is important because the deck does really require soul, and then 4 basic heals. It doesn't really matter. You could play 12 crit, I think, but since you are playing more of a combo type deck, the draw, 1 offensive or defensive draw really does help getting a piece to your hand, so yeah. For the G zone, it's pretty basic. We're playing 1 Judgment. So this card, the old effect is on hit, you can lock one of your opponent's back rows and unlock one of your cards. This is generally the first stride you're going to go into, especially against things like Sanctuary, I guess, and Revengers. If you lock their Judge Bow, their first stride turn with Grim Recruiter isn't as strong. So they don't get the like plus 3 or 4 off of Recruiter, because they can go Recruiter hits, use Recruiter to, if you're on Abyss, you can call Trumpeter. Trumpeter calls another card, then Judge Bow calls Double Swordbreaker to draw 2, and it just snowballs out from there. So we play 1 of these. It's your first stride, generally speaking. This deck has a pretty bad first stride, varying on your hand, and if you rushed early game, so yeah. The next stride is 3 copies, of Amnesty Messiah. So when it attacks, you can unlock as many cards as you want, and if you unlock 3 or more, he gains a crit, and then he gains 3k for each. So this card's important in the mirror match, and against Chaos or any other Link Joker deck, because just getting a crit and unlocking your board is really important. So we play 3 of it. You could play more, I guess, but I think 3 is perfect. The CB1 is actually kind of important. Then the final stride, which is actually a really good card, is Big Crunch Dragon. So its GB effect is you can CB1 to flip a copy of itself, and then if you're at GB2 or more, you can Omega Lock an entire column. So this card is really, really good against aggro decks. So against Sanctuary, you'll go into this second, generally, and you'll go CB1 with Amnesty's Stride skill to lock a column, or a front row, and then this will lock another, Omega Lock another column, so your opponent will just have the Vanguard. So at that point, they generally can't go into things like Outmile or Saint Blow or Samuel, so they'll generally have to go into like a Blade or something kind of useless that just gives them board presence because they won't have a front row to attack with. So this card is particularly important in that matchup and against Revengers. By Omega Locking an entire column, you essentially put them back a turn, because that way they'll only have 3 attacks if they do their Abyss Restand. So it's a really important card. And then against other decks that just want to rush you, you can GB2 go into this and just kind of screw them over for an extra 2 turns. So hey guys, this is my first deck introduction to GBT-04 format. I'm going to slowly try and upload more videos. Sorry, I've been busy, new job, everything. So yeah, rate, comment, sub. Thanks. Bye.